Think about every World War II movie you've ever seen, every documentary, every textbook photo. Now, count the black faces. Count the black soldiers storming the beaches, liberating camps, or winning battles. You probably won't find many. Maybe a few in the background, token figures in a story that's been told as if they weren't there. But here's the reality: over 1.2 million black Americans served in World War II. They fought in every single theater of the war. They won battles that changed the outcome. They earned countless medals for their incredible bravery. So, where are they in our history? Their erasure wasn't an accident. It was a choice. This is the story of the regiments they don't teach you about in school, the battles they won, the unbelievable courage they showed while fighting two wars at once, one against fascism abroad, and another against racism in their own military. We're talking about heroes like the Harlem Hellfighters, the Tuskegee Airmen, the 761st Tank Battalion, and the 92nd Infantry Division. These men were not footnotes. They weren't supporting characters. They were heroes who changed the world. Let's look at the numbers. In World War I, about 380,000 black Americans served. Most were pushed into labor battalions, building roads and loading supplies, denied the chance to fight. But when they were given that chance, they were extraordinary. By World War II, that number swelled to over 1.2 million. Despite segregation, despite being given inferior equipment and less training, they fought with a distinction that is simply staggering. So why were their stories buried? It's not just about getting the history right. It's about who we allow to be a hero. When you erase black soldiers from the narrative of World War II, you reinforce a dangerous lie, that the fight for freedom was an exclusively white endeavor. It made it easier to deny black Americans their full rights as citizens when they returned home. After all, the twisted logic went, if they didn't fight for freedom, why should they receive it? But they did fight, and the truth matters. These soldiers lived a brutal paradox. They were fighting for democracy in Europe while being denied it back home. They couldn't vote in much of the South. They couldn't eat at the same restaurants as white soldiers. They were subjected to racial terror, and yet, they served. They believed in what America could, not what it was. Let's start with the Harlem Hellfighters of World War I. This regiment, the 369th Infantry, spent 191 consecutive days in combat, longer than any other American unit. They never lost a foot of ground, and not a single one of their men was ever captured. The French military, which was more willing to let them fight, nicknamed them the Hellfighters. They returned home as heroes, marching through Harlem to thunderous applause. But the moment passed, segregation continued, and their story was largely forgotten by mainstream history. Fast forward to World War II, and the military was still segregated. Black soldiers served in all-black units, often commanded by white officers who doubted their abilities. But time and again, they proved the doubters wrong. Take the Tuskegee Airmen. This was the first group of black military pilots in the U.S. Armed Forces. The whole program started as an experiment because military leaders didn't believe black men could handle the complexity of flying combat aircraft. The Tuskegee Airmen didn't just prove them wrong, they proved them spectacularly wrong. Flying their famous P-51 Mustangs with the distinctive red tails, they escorted American bombers over Europe. Their record is legendary. They never lost a single bomber they were escorting to enemy fighter planes. White bomber crews specifically requested the red tails because they knew those pilots were the best protection they had. They flew over 15,000 missions, destroyed hundreds of enemy aircraft, and earned nearly 100 distinguished flying crosses. They didn't just prove black pilots could fly, they proved they were among the very best. Then there was the 761st Tank Battalion, known as the Black Panthers. Their motto was simple: come out fighting. And they did. They fought for 183 straight days, playing a crucial role in the Battle of the Bulge under General Patton. Patton himself, despite his own prejudices, saw their effectiveness. He told them, "I don't care what color you are, so long as you go up there and kill those Kraut sons of bitches." The 761st fought across France, Belgium, and Germany, and were among the first American units to link up with Soviet troops. Baseball legend Jackie Robinson was a member of this unit before being court-martialed for refusing to move to the back of a segregated military bus, a stark reminder of the battles they fought off the battlefield. And we have the 92nd Infantry Division, the Buffalo Soldiers, who fought a brutal campaign in the mountains of Italy. They faced one of the toughest German defensive positions of the war, the Gothic Line. They were often set up to fail, with poor equipment and leadership that doubted them. The press would highlight every setback and ignore their successes, but they broke through the line, pushed the German forces back, and liberated Italian towns. Every one of these soldiers was fighting a double war. At home, German prisoners of war were allowed to eat in restaurants that denied service to black American soldiers in uniform. They faced violence and discrimination even on their own bases, yet they served, and their service had a profound impact. The stories of individual heroism are heartbreaking and inspiring. Staff Sergeant Reuben Rivers of the 761st was severely wounded, but refused to be evacuated, staying with his tank crew until he was killed in action. He was recommended for the Medal of Honor in 1945, but it was denied. It took 52 years for that injustice to be corrected, when he was posthumously awarded the medal in 1997. Second Lieutenant Vernon Baker of the 92nd single-handedly took out 3 enemy machine gun nests and an observation post in Italy. He too was denied the Medal of Honor until 1997, the only living recipient out of 7 black soldiers who were finally recognized that day. This pattern of delayed recognition wasn't a mistake. It was a product of the racism they faced. When these soldiers came home, they expected change. They had fought for freedom, and now they wanted to experience it. Instead, they returned to the same old segregation and discrimination. But something had changed inside them. They had seen a world without American racism, and they were no longer willing to accept the status quo. Veterans like Medgar Evers became leaders in the civil rights movement, using their military training and moral authority to fight for justice. The hypocrisy of America's position was undeniable. In 1948, President Truman officially desegregated the armed forces, a direct result of the incredible performance of these black units. Today, the work of remembering these heroes is ongoing. Museums and documentaries are starting to tell their stories, but it's not enough. These stories are not just black history. They are American history. They are world history. They challenge our ideas of patriotism and force us to ask who gets to be called a hero. These men didn't fight for the America that existed. They fought for the America that could exist. They fought for the possibility of a nation that lived up to its ideals. Their courage didn't just change world wars. It laid the foundation for a more just society. So, you can't change the fact that they were forgotten, but you can change whether they stay forgotten. Learn their names. Share their stories. When someone talks about the greatest generation, ask them to remember the whole story. The Harlem Hellfighters, the Tuskegee Airmen, the Black Panthers of the 761st, the Buffalo Soldiers of the 92nd. They fought 2 wars and won them both. The least we can do is remember their names. Thanks for watching. If you want to dive deeper into the hidden histories that redefine our past, make sure to follow for more.